Welcome back to CT22. Today in our Sunday Spotlight, a Connecticut man's amazing journey across the Atlantic. David Tunick is joining us right now to talk about his 2-month trip all by himself on a sailboat, leaving from Spain and arriving in his hometown of Stamford about a week ago. Welcome. You haven't been home that long.
Thank you so much. No, it was exactly a week ago today at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I came into Stamford Harbor. It was fantastic. Stamford Yacht Club had arranged a flotilla. First, one boat came out when I was around Norwalk, and then boats started to add on. I thought, isn't that nice? A boat has come out to see me. And in the end, there were about, I don't know, 30, 40 boats, including the whole junior fleet. It was spraying champagne and tooting horns and firing cannons. It was a fantastic welcome. Not totally unexpected, I might add.
What prompts someone to get on a sailboat and spend 2 months alone at sea?
You want me to talk about that, I take it?
Yes, I do.
Okay, well, I started single-handing. I have to say, that's what it's called, single-handing, if you're alone on a boat, when I was very young. But I didn't get seriously into big boat sailing until my 20s. And in fact, even that was a little delayed because I did nothing but work every day, including weekends. Yes, there it is, the boat in Horta in the Azores, one of the places I stopped. I single-handed quite a lot down to Bermuda, up to Maine, and so on. But I always wanted to sail alone to Europe. And so in 2001, I sailed from Connecticut, actually then from Eastern Connecticut, over to England. And that was 22 days. And that was a relatively, I mean, you're always going to run into storms, but it was a relatively easy trip. The Gulf Stream goes in that direction. The wind is behind you. And that's how most of the transatlantic races take place, in fact, is from here going over to England. Coming back was something else. I did keep my boat in Europe for 22 years. I intended for it to be a year or two, but I love Northern Europe, especially Scandinavia. But a year ago, I staged the boat. I sailed about 1,000 miles from Holland down to Spain to stage it for taking the trade wind route back, which is really sailing from Europe down to off the coast of Africa, Morocco, southern Morocco, Canary Islands, Cape Verde Islands. Then with the wind behind you, you blow over to the Caribbean. And when the southwesterlies kick in, you can arc up towards the United States and to New England.
David, you were kind enough. David, you were kind enough to send us all these photos, but we did see some photos where you had mentioned that, you know, it's not always smooth sailing. We saw some pretty rough seas and water, and it looked a little, you know, nerve-wracking out there. Were there any moments in that journey that, you know, you were a little on edge?
35 knots. Well, there on screen now, you have a squall that came through in the Gulf Stream, which was really the last leg from Bermuda up to New England, which takes only, you know, 4, 5, 6 days, depending on your boat. And so these squalls came ripping through at 30, 35 knots. Big difference between 20, 25 knots and 35 knots. I've forgotten the geometry of it, if that's the correct word, but it's multiples more than 10 knots more. Knot, by the way, is about a mile per hour. A nautical mile is about 1.1 statute miles. And so the worst weather I had was right off the bat off the coast of Spain, gales to 35 knots, 40 knots, really blowing hard, big waves, unpredicted. I knew the wind was going to be strong. And then my steering got stuck. And the first thing that happened was I was going north towards Greenland instead of west towards the United States of America. And so it took me a couple days to get the steering straightened out. People must have thought I was absolutely off my rocker, and that would have been correct, going in that direction. I didn't want to come back via the icebergs. Very tough for a single-hander to watch out.
Well, it's a very good thing that
I have a Titanic.
It's a very good thing that you did not.
Turn it on. Sorry, Susan.
That's okay. It's a very good thing that you did not get lost. We don't have a lot of time, but I did want to ask you quickly, you know, for most of us, being alone for a week by ourselves is a long time, 2 months. Were there other things that you did to entertain yourself? And again, we don't have a lot of time, but I want to know what you primarily did to entertain yourself.
Okay, well, I mean, Sartre said if you're not happy being alone, you're in the wrong company. I've never had a problem being alone. The worst thing that happened, I have to say, weren't the gales and that weather in the Gulf Stream. It was the calms. I got caught in the Azores High, and with my engine dead, my generator dead, my self-steering dead, and I was just stuck in this intense heat. So that was the very worst thing. What did I do? I read
Well,
read the great new biography on Truman. I read a great book about Europe between the wars. Mostly, I tried to stay out of the heat. I only went out
well,
on deck
I bet
at
you,
dawn and
I bet you did a lot of reading. We have to go. So thank you for joining us, and we're welcome you're back. And that is
Thank
it
you
for
so much. Nice to be
CT22
with
for
you.
this week. CBS Sunday Morning is next. Have a great rest of your weekend. We'll meet you back here in Studio A next Sunday morning. Have a great rest of your weekend.